Hello, my name's Artemis, and it seems that for better or for worse, and whether they know about it or not, plenty of different media outlets are accidentally or deliberately creating prime, perfect furry bait. And you can tell exactly what I mean by that when you look at certain recent additions to it all. But what exactly qualifies prime furry baits, the kind of thing that's going to get all of us thirsty furries queuing up around the block to consume your media? Well, I feel like I have some theories on that, and I might even have some good and bad examples as well. Who knows? I guess you'll have to stick around for the whole video to find out. And if you don't stick around for the whole video, then there's probably no consequences, actually, because there's not an awful lot I can do about it. But anyway, let's just dig in. So obviously there are some common trends and kinks and fetishes and all of that kind of jazz which is mixed in with the furry experience, which instantly makes it more enticing when you include it in your mainstream media. There are plenty of things which furries are more than happy to look at and think, I'm going to base all of my fetish artwork around this for the next month and just run with it. And yes, they do, and it's good. It's wholesome. That's without the W, so it's wholesome. You know, like sodomy. But definitely these are things that are included, whether it's deliberate or not, I cannot say, but they are included in media. But there are some good examples, some bad examples, some things that are definitely turn-ons and definitely turn-offs. Let's go with the turn-ons first. So there's the whole teeth of it all, the big, real gnashy, sharp teeth, tooth, mouth thing that goes with it. Because, snouts are very different from typical human anatomy. They're very stylized, and when you're going to use them in animation or with animalistic anthro characters, it's very easy to just add in a few scenes, we need to show them as being cocky or even threatening, and let's get the tooths out, yeah? Let's get the tooths out. Maybe they can eat someone, maybe they can try and eat someone. We can, do the stereotypical, like ding of light off of the shiny teeth because, people are going to get off to that, and that's fine. That's absolutely okay. Not me, obviously. If you're going to go paws or maws, you can change that M in maws to a P in paws, and even then I'm not getting off to it, but I do appreciate it like an aficionado. I feel like there might be something coming up with paws next, actually. Ah, yes, lo and behold, there it is, the lifeblood of the furry experience. Paws. Yes. Obviously, we're not just talking about the feet paws, we're talking about the hand paws, but just generally paws, claws, pads, fluff, fur, that sort of thing. Obviously, there are a great many ways that you can include this in your media, that a lot of films and TV and such likes to include them because, having paws means that you often got less digits than the humans, and having claws can lead to a lot of different funny gags and just general, themes of the entire thing. And obviously, being, having your entire world be barefoot, you're going to deal with, different shaped feet and different shaped everything, and you might even have, stomping scenes, and you might even have, footprints, and just show all of that goodness. And, for some reason, I can't exactly say why, but feet in the human community is kind of a gross thing for most people, but paws in the furry community is cute and fluffy and wholesome and lovely. But we still, in these media examples, seem to show a lot of the same sort of goodness when it comes to the paws. Hell, sometimes we just flat out wheel in fetish material with it as well without even meaning to. And yes, of course, the big swooshing fluffy tails, which, they can very easily be used as a very great emoting part of the body language, because that really sets you apart. Like, okay, yeah, we've got an anthro animal character. They might wear clothes, they might not. They stand on two legs, and they just generally, look like a mix between the two. But it's when you start to blend in things like, ear movements, tail movements, and expressions that you really get the illusion going, and we are all about that illusion. That's some good, cool shit. And when you get the big, fluffy, brushy, floofy, swishing tails that can also react to the, character's emotions, that's chef's kiss. That is some good shit. But on top of all this, you have the general character and general body design as well. Are they going to be digilegs or not? Are they going to exhibit, more anthro traits, or are they just basically a human body with an animal head and fur? And obviously, the character comes into it quite a bit as well, because as much as I would love to say that this is very wholesome for the furry community, yeah, a lot of them do like the daddy dom top kind of character to it, If if you're going to look at these characters, even if they're villains, even if they kill, even if they are supposed to be scary, if the typical furry can picture being pinned against a wall by someone like this, and that's a hot thing for them, then it's gonna fucking work, isn't it? Especially if you get the right voice actor behind it, you can get that little bit of gruffness, get that sort of dumb voice coming in. That's gonna be a fucking hit. I get it, it's what you want to use for being a scary villain in your generally family-friendly film, but it just so happens to flick a few switches in the odd furry's brain that just happen to have a different effect. But as much as there are turn-ons that can... But as much as there are turn-ons to each one of these categories, there are also turn-offs. There are things within these categories that you shouldn't do. You should not do, because they are not furry bait. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do them at all, that they are inherently bad, but they go against the principles of being furry bait. And they are the sort of things that furries will just not be all that into. And I guess if this is the kind of market that you're trying to, target, then these are the sort of things that will take them out of your crosshairs. So the art style and the general look of the head can be a little bit of an issue if you're taking away a lot of the more anthro features. If you've got just human teeth on a snout, that shit is actually a little bit creepy. If you're taking away certain aspects like the eyes and the general facial structure, making them more human, then it's just sort of entering the uncanny valley kind of area with these things, and that's not exactly going to be enticing at all. When it comes to the paws, sometimes a lot of places just get lazy and just decide to go for human hands and feet and don't really do anything more beyond that, apart from changing the colour maybe, or oddly enough adding fur, because I'm sure just adding like some satiny, velvety fur to a human foot is really fucking uncomfortable at the best of times, and also kind of gross. So yeah, I can say that that's really going to take people out of the illusion, or even doing the cardinal sin with furries and, having them have proper big plush beans, but keeping them in fucking shoes or boots all the goddamn time, teasing that they are there, but never actually giving it. That is a sin. The unflushed turd syndrome with tails, where they just sort of hang loosely as if they are nothing more than a sock full of shit pinned to the back of your belt. Like, what's the point in having a tail there? What's the point in adding it if it's going to add nothing to the general illusion? You might as well not have it, but also that is a little bit of a sin. I mean, some shows have been able to do anthro characters without the tails, and it does sort of work, but there's always a little disconnect where you've got to get your head around that fact to begin with before you can really gel with it all. And it's the kind of thing like, well, this is a very animalistic thing, and it's also a very big thing that separates human from animal. So you're kind of going to want to use it and utilize it if this is the whole distinction you're trying to make. And as for the character, turn-offs would be cringe, just pure cringe. Like, are they deliberately acting overly animalistic to the point of just pain? Like, are they like a wolf that can walk on two legs and yet still sniffs asses, or does really dumb shit like that, and just generally, we don't want to see a cartoon wolf taking a shit on the front lawn for someone else to pick up, okay? It's just not it. That's just not it. It's just, even beyond the whole furry bait or not, it's just a bit fucking weird. So, no thank you. No thank you on that front. So you may be wondering what exactly I would use as good examples and bad examples, and I certainly have some of those for you. A prime furry bait and things that are not exactly adhering to the rules of furry bait. Now, I will say that we are not going to be mentioning Zootopia. We are not going to be mentioning Beastars, because who hasn't mentioned those fucking things a million times? Okay, it's low-hanging fruit. So we're going to try something a bit more recent, and also a classic one for the best, like the best examples, just to keep things modern and up with the times and try and potentially capitalize on trending topics. Who knows? But yes, Puss in Boots obviously is a big prime example of it today, because everybody wants this big daddy wolf. And I mean, I'll be fair, taking all the furry stuff aside, it's a good fucking design. I really like the creepy eyes, the elongated snout, and just the general silhouette of this character is great, because it gets across the message that this is, a villain, a bad thing, something to be feared, but also you get the quintessential wolf stuff. You get the digi legs and all. But, going back to the furry bait shit, look at them fucking teeth. If you think that furries don't want to slide in there, You're wrong. Look at these beans. Yes, there are beans on display. Big fucking deal. Big fucking deal, okay? And just a general character, this sort of cocksure, yes, I mean that as a pun, and this very, you know, daddy kind of thing going on. Like, yeah, he's trying to kill me, but as long as he chokes me a bit first, I don't know. And going from one wolf to another, we also have the bad guys. That was a very good example as well. Now, yes, they do commit the cardinal sin of not exactly going with the barefoot variants, but different mix of species, which is always a good thing. And also very expressive art style, very expressive eyes and, you know, general physical demeanor. And mixing in, you know, different outfits, going from suave, sophisticated suit to cute onesie that you want to snuggle with. That's a fucking wise choice. That's very marketable. It's a great idea, studio execs. Now, obviously, they could have leaned into it a little bit more with certain things, but I think that the bad guys had a great sort of look to it because they avoided going with all the, you know, threatening daddy dom stuff and just made charisma king. And I mean, if you're going to get Sam Rockwell to do the voice, then yes, you're getting charisma, but still. Home fucking run. And as for our classic example, Robin Hood. I mean, come on. Robin Hood, that must have started off a lot of furries in this fandom, okay? And we're talking animated, not BBC crap and, you know, not live action. We're talking animated. And this shit is just, this is going to start a lot of people off in a lot of different ways. You've got a great variety of species. You've got great designs and artwork styles, fantastic characterization. You've got humor. You've also got some downright fetishistic scenes just snuck in there. The sort of thing that as I was a young child watching this, just it nailed itself to my brain and I was like, I don't know what to do with this information. And my brain was like, it's okay, just save it. We'll find out when you're 16. It's okay. And then sure enough, like, oh, right, okay, yeah, I get you. A+. Obviously, this is furry bait. But there are also some films which actually shy away from these sorts of traits, and they don't exhibit stereotypical furry bait. Now, I need to preface this with saying that this does not mean that these films are bad. It does not mean that they are not furry enough. It does not mean that any of these traits are bad. It's just, I've sort of set out some rules that I feel are like very much baiting towards furries, and these films do not adhere to those. So don't have a look at me as, you know, slamming these films. It's just my observations. But yeah, the first one I would say is Sonic. Sonic is definitely anti-furry bait, I would say, because as much as you have a much beloved sort of community around this IP, and that you've, you know, tried your best to be as faithful as you can, even though you've got a different voice actor, but whatever. And even though you got Idris Elba to do proper daddy voice Sonic, Knuckles, wow, I'm getting crucified for that one, Knuckles. Obviously, this was a very family-orientated film and franchise, and also anybody who's been on DeviantArt knows exactly what kind of community the Sonic fandom has around a lot of different things. So it's very dangerous to fuel that fire. I mean, look at Sonic Boom. They knew what they were getting into, and they leaned into it, and it worked, but it can very easily blow up in your face. So yes, obviously, despite the fact the first film revolves around the subplot of Sonic finding his iconic shoes, you ain't getting nothing, alright? You ain't getting a single fucking foot shot. You might get a holographic footprint and a vague glance even, at some soft Sonic feet. And even then, it's probably not going to be anything you want to see, because we don't want to fucking destroy this dam and let the floodwaters overrun us, okay? So I fully understand it and I embrace it, but it sure as shit could have leaned all the way into this shit. Made a wise decision not to. Another one that just went with not baiting the furries, I would say, is Rango, because it prized realism over anything else. And obviously, furries are interested in anthropomorphized animals, not the actual animals themselves. That's something else that we fucking hate. Check out my video on that shit. And I feel like they made a lot of choices to stick with artistic license and the specific kind of art style that they wanted to go towards. And that left them not exactly adhering to these rules that I set forth, which is fine, because these are not exactly, you know, fucking stellar rules everyone has to stick to. Not everybody has to bait the furry community, but it's not often you see any furries lusting after any of the characters of Rango, is it? It's not often it comes up in conversation. In fact, by the furry community, it's pretty forgotten, despite the fact it's actually a really good film, and it's a really smart way of using these animal characters to bring this kind of Western story to a younger audience. Yes, I did very much enjoy it, but there was nothing in there I could see cropping up on Fur Affinity. Simple as. And finally, an obscure one. When I was going through the list, I saw this one and thought, wow, I need to fucking mention this, because this looks like it could be the new, like, Neil Breen kind of shit. And that's the Donkey King. Now, I don't want to judge, because I'm no artist myself, but what the fuck is this? 1,000-yard stairs. I think most furries would have a hard time getting off to that, quite frankly. This does not obey any of the rules, and it seems to try, but does not succeed. There's a lot of sort of dead, soulless looks on the faces here, and just generally... Whew. I would be shocked if there was even any fan art in the furry community with any characters from this little-known film. And I'm sure none of you have ever even heard of it. And you're just seeing these clips up here for the first time, but I saw it, and I was looking, and I was very much like, well, I need to fucking highlight this and mention this, because kind of nails everything. The characterization seems off, the art style is interesting, but it doesn't quite land with all of our specific likes. It kind of lands with the dislikes, and I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something there that just, it's uncanny valley to the extreme, right? Like, is it the human eyes? I don't know, it's pretty fucked up, but that definitely fucking hits the bad example of furry bait. Ugh. But yes, thank you for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy this random romp into the rules of baiting furries. Obviously there are a million different ways that you can do that. There are a million different films. I could have made an entire video on examples of good and bad, but so that's a little bit of a cop-out because there's so fucking many of them, and it would just mean it's a half-an-hour video of me going, you know, this Disney property, and then this Disney property, and also this Pixar property, and we don't need another video doing that, do we? So, yeah, there are a hell of a lot of things that can tie into it, and I don't know, I feel like there are some things that are very much deliberate, because, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. If you're a marketing manager, you're going to look at what things are going to work and bring extra attention from other communities, because that could equate to extra money, but a lot of this, I feel like, are just things that generally the furry fandom likes, and a lot of these creators could slip them in thinking, oh, well, that fits the sort of characters we're trying to build, and then after the film comes out, they're like, oh shit, we did a fucky there, because now they're all trying to do a fucky with the creature we created. Oh well, see if we can milk them for some money, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that sort of hit like this. What kind of examples do you have? What kind of things do you think really nail the button as being prime furry bait? I'd be interested to see that. Just as interested as I'm sure you would be to check out the merchandise. You could get yourself some furry bait. I mean, none of it is actually furry bait. I'm just using that as a segue, but you get yourself a paw cushion. I mean, lots of people would love to smush their face into a soft set of beans, and for the cheap price here, you can do that. My beans. Not literally mine, exactly, it's a cushion, but you get the point. And if you just want to support us and keep this channel going, then, well, look at that, there's Patreon shit going on as well, so you could always have a little look, think about maybe supporting, keeping us going. I think that's enough time. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I guess I'll see you next week. Bye!